Okay, now we're recording. Wonderful. Well, it is 11:03, so we're going to go ahead and jump in. First, welcome everyone. I'm Samantha Dyna. I'm the Director of Special Projects at the Department of Labor, and we have many of my colleagues on as well, and I'll let them introduce themselves when we get ready to jump into breakouts, so you have a sense of who your facilitators are. As we're just jumping on, please feel free to use the chat to just say a quick hello, name, organization, so we have a sense of who is on with us. And we'll have a chance as well in those breakouts to just say hello again, so you get a sense of who you're talking to today. But thank you again, everyone, for joining. I'm going to have the Deputy Commissioner, Kim Smith, just say a couple of opening words, and then we'll jump in. So Kim, you want to kick us off?
Good morning. Thanks, Sam. I'm Kim Smith. I'm the Deputy Commissioner. And on behalf of Commissioner Fortman, I want to thank you all for participating this morning. The last year and a half, as you know, there's been an incredible investment in helping people get through the pandemic through unemployment. And at this point, with the American Recovery Plan Act, we have a unique opportunity to really make a substantial investment in Maine's workforce. And I'm very excited about that opportunity. You may know that there is Maine state ARPA legislation that kind of provides the framework for how we're going to operate, but there's flexibility within that. And there are, this is where we would like to certainly get your input on how we move forward with those initiatives. And so thank you this morning for joining, and I look forward to hearing your input. Thank you. So Sam, back over to you.
Awesome, thank you. I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen, and we're gonna walk through a couple of slides this morning, and we really want to make sure that we're creating enough space for input and questions and all of the suggestions that you all have. But we'll spend about the first 15-20 minutes just up front laying some background and providing some information for this discussion. So our objectives today are to discuss the current state and brainstorm with you all on how to approach workforce development differently. As the Deputy Commissioner said, we have a great opportunity with the American Recovery Plan funding and want your input on how we can work differently within this moment of recovery. Our agenda, as I said, we're going to do some background and stage setting. We're going to have some discussion around how we're thinking about workforce strategy and some of the principles that are really embedding how we're approaching this work moving forward. And then we'll get quickly into breakouts. We really want you all engaging with each other and providing us feedback and questions and suggestions. Throughout our conversation, please feel free to use the chat or the raise hand feature. We will be monitoring, and we want to make sure that this is a discussion and doesn't feel one way. So go ahead and use the chat with any questions, comments that you've got, or the raise hand feature, and we'll make sure that either I or if one of my colleagues sees a great question or someone raising their hand, feel free to jump in and call on that person as well. So just some quick background to kind of ground the conversation. As you all know, the economy is slowly recovering, and with that is coming a lot of different workforce dynamics. So we know that there are a lot of employers that are looking to hire individuals, as well as individuals that are looking for jobs. And so just different dynamics coming out of the last 18 months in terms of desires for more flexibility, desires for different careers, different skill sets, different training. So really people are coming out with a lot of different learnings from their 18 months in the pandemic and looking for different things in the workplace and looking for different things in workers. And so wanted to just call out that there are opportunities to engage potential workers. There are definitely pockets of individuals and communities that are struggling with lower rates of labor force participation. So specific counties typically struggle with lower unemployment and lower economic activity. Those with lower educational attainment are more likely to not be engaged in the workforce, and as we saw during the pandemic, experienced longer periods of unemployment as well. Individuals with disabilities are more likely to be disconnected from work, as well as BIPOC communities who also experience disproportionate rates of unemployment. And women are disproportionately represented in the current UI unemployment claimant population, some due to caretaking needs. So recognizing that there are lots of individuals that are still seeking work that might be on the sidelines and have been historically marginalized. So using that as a frame for how we want to think and work differently to engage those individuals in meaningful work. You all may have seen this. Last week, we released a report on barriers that are preventing individuals from returning to work. So we asked the current UI, unemployment insurance claimant population, as well as active job seekers on Maine Job Link. It was a 4-question survey, so really brief, but really wanted to make it easy for folks to tell us what are their barriers in returning to work. And these were our learnings. I would say overall, there wasn't one barrier. So you'll see a lot of 30s and 20s at the top. There wasn't one big barrier that everyone was citing. It's really individualized, it's nuanced, it's complex. People are citing a lot of different barriers based on their circumstances, but a couple of things did rise to the top. Individuals are really looking for relevant, accessible training and job opportunities in their area or remotely. There's still COVID-19 health safety risks that folks are citing. So that's number 2 reason why individuals are not returning to work. And that reason was cited really high among the older adult population. So 55 and up individuals citing that as their number 1 reason for not returning. Quality jobs was also a theme. So you'll see here in this graph, insufficient pay or wages to cover my expenses, lack of benefits, lack of predictable schedule or long-term positions. So really looking for quality, and I'm going to say that in quotation marks because that means different things to different folks in terms of what people are looking for, that flexibility, that livable wage, those different types of benefits. And then social supports and infrastructure. So these were challenges that existed before the pandemic, were exacerbated during the pandemic, things around affordable housing, access to affordable childcare, reliable transportation, also coming up for individuals as barriers. And so I say that because we recognize that there are lots of communities out there that we want to engage, and they are experiencing very individualized and complex barriers. And we are one part of this complex workforce ecosystem with you all as partners as well. So we really want to be working collaboratively and innovatively with all of you in this ecosystem to think about how we can engage these workers and meet employer needs. So just some quick background on how we're kind of thinking about the workforce strategy from the Department of Labor and kind of workforce system perspective. Some of the things that are really underpinning our approach with this recovery period are collaboration. So as I said, we want to be working with that whole system, that complicated wheel that I showed you on that last page, working with all of you to make sure that this is aligned, it's accessible, and it's easy to navigate for the job seekers and the employers. We also really have equity at the forefront of our minds. So as I mentioned, those communities that have been historically marginalized, underrepresented in the workforce, making sure that we're really reaching out, connecting with them, supporting them, and advancing them to high quality jobs and inclusive and safe workplaces. We want to make sure everything we're doing is outcomes driven. So really driving toward making sure that individuals have a good job, driving toward increasing wages, driving toward credentials of value. We want to work innovatively. This is why we're talking with all of you. There are great ideas and great efforts that are happening out in the community. So we want to learn from you and think about how we might work differently within this moment. And lastly, we want to make sure what we're doing is sustainable. So we are receiving this influx of recovery funding, but we don't want that change to just last but those 2 years of the funding life cycle. We really want to use this as a moment to transform the workforce system and serve workers and employers. So I'm going to just go over a couple of key pieces that are underlying this workforce strategy. And I touched on these before, but really 3 main goals and metrics to the point of being outcomes driven that are underlying a lot of our work. And these were really informed by the 10-year Maine Economic Development Plan, which was informed by, I think, input from over 1,300 people. So you may have been involved in the last couple of years. It's really building on what we're learning from the community over the last few years around those goals. So one is increasing the size of Maine's talent pool by 75,000 workers. Number 2 is increasing the percentage of individuals with a credential of value. And I'll put that in quotation marks as that is still being defined. And then number 3 is increasing the average annual wage by 10%. And so how we plan to do that, and I'm not going to hit on every single one of these, but a number of strategies that we're really thinking about. So in order to increase the size of Maine's talent pool, we're really breaking down barriers for existing workers. So really focusing on the priority communities and understanding what their barriers might be in connecting to the workforce and advancing. And then also working with DECD on attracting new workers and some of the efforts that they have. In terms of increasing credential of value, really focused on connecting individuals to high quality training and connecting with degrees. So recognizing that a credential of value doesn't need to be a 2 or 4 year degree, but really high quality apprenticeships, pre-apprenticeships, and other training programs as well. And lastly, increasing the annual average wage by 10%, doing that through 2 ways, making sure that individuals have clear pathways to quality jobs. So really working on building those clear career pathways, exposing residents to high in-demand jobs and expanding the accessibility of pathways. And then working with our employers and our business partners to promote high quality jobs by helping them to support investment in worker training, support worker livelihood through wages and benefits, and help to include that make sure that they're making an inclusive workplace. Okay. So I'm not going to go through this slide because this is kind of publicly available, but hopefully a lot of the strategies resonated with you as they are really the cornerstones of the main Jobs and Recovery Act, which is really what we are advancing at the state level. And so how we plan to do that, and you all probably are really interested in knowing about the recovery planning efforts that we've got underway. So these are the 3 big goals that I just touched on. And so how the workforce strategy is really looking to advance those goals is through 6 different lenses. So 1 is a lot of focus on apprenticeship and pre-apprenticeship. 2 is around healthcare workforce strategy. So how do we engage individuals in the healthcare workforce and help upskill them and advance them in their careers? And how do we engage individuals not in healthcare and get them connected to good healthcare jobs? 3 is around industry partnerships. So really providing support to sectoral-based initiatives and employers and businesses within a sector to help identify their workforce needs and meet those needs. 4 is around job seeker navigation, guidance, and support. So really expanding the reach of existing career counselors, thinking about how we can do creative outreach and meet communities where they are and understand their barriers and meet those by connecting them to existing resources or even providing direct financial support. 5 is around training and education support. So really looking at our existing competitive skills scholarship program, thinking about how we can expand that and refine that to the current moment. And 6 is around employer support. So really supporting employers and helping them to create more inclusive workplaces for our communities. So I just touched on a lot of these pieces. So I'm just going to leave that up for about 30 seconds so that you can all just digest a little bit more all of the buckets and how we're looking at some of this recovery planning effort across these 6 lenses: apprenticeship, healthcare workforce, industry partnerships, job seeker navigation, training and education, and employer supports. And we will have a chance to dig in. Our breakout groups are really to get a sense from you all on how we can be getting some input and questions about these different buckets. So you'll have a chance to dig in more with us on these. And last piece before I open it up for your questions and reactions from all of you is the timeline, just to give you a sense of where we're at in this process. So over the summer, the proposals for the American Recovery Planning Act funding was implemented in terms of legislation. So that is publicly available in the legislation today around how these funds have been allocated. And so what we're doing now is gathering input and questions from all of you. So we're at this time where we're planning on implementation planning, and we really want your questions, feedback, thoughts, suggestions around how we can really best leverage this funding to make transformative change in your communities. And we're looking at fall, winter, kind of late 2021, early 2022 is when things will really be rolling out after the funding gets approved and we have implementation plans and have those opportunities more broadly available to the community. Okay, so with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a second so I can see all of you, and just opening it up for any overarching questions or reactions. And we're just going to take a couple, and then we'll get into breakout rooms to really dig in a little bit deeper. So feel free to jump in, either unmute or raise your hand or put something in the chat, and we can try to answer a couple of those up front.
Hi, this is Colleen. I'll jump in. So I'm taking all of this in, but I'm sitting here in the midst of like the worst employment crisis we've ever had. We have it in healthcare. We have it in long-term care. You can't even go to your local Mr. Bagel, it's closed on certain days, no help. Starbucks is sharing staff between locations. How fast can this be ramped up? Because where is the workforce? It's actually gotten to, I think, a really extreme state. And so I look at all of these strategies and I wonder, are we being nimble enough or fast enough to really respond to businesses are closing. They're closing every day, the new one closing because they can't get workforce. Where are they? That's my reaction.
Yes, that is a fair reaction, Colleen. And I think we're trying to work as quickly as we can within some of these strategies. So some of them are high priority and we're trying to get them out the door in the next month or so. So we're really trying to prioritize those that are trying to meet those direct needs that you're talking about, Colleen. And we're willing to definitely have conversations with you all on things that we can be more flexible, be more innovative, and how we can support with our existing infrastructure, with our career centers, our business services staff. Definitely willing to explore and experiment with you all on those. And then I'll open it up to any other DOL or State Workforce Board colleagues if there's anything else you'd like to add to Colleen's question too. The only other thing I'll add, Colleen, is it's definitely a unique time in the workforce history. We're seeing it nationally. There's a lot of questions around what is happening. I think the barriers survey gave us some insight that it's not just one silver bullet. And so we're trying to work across a lot of different levels around what individually do you need, systemically, how can we really up the infrastructure, which will take some time. And then what are some kind of quick win supports that we can help with employers. So trying to kind of operate at all of those different levels with those different barriers, but recognize it as a critical time and a totally unique time in our history. So welcome ideas and suggestions around how we can partner differently. Thanks for raising that. Anything else jumping out to folks before we get into our breakouts to do exactly what Colleen suggested? Think about how we can be flexible, innovative, equity focused to really make some progress on some of these challenges that we're seeing.
Hi, good morning. Lisa Rogers from FedCap in Lewiston. Thank you for allowing me to join. What I am a placement specialist here, and our challenges are, we got a lot of folks coming off from unemployment now that are coming back on the TANF program. And a lot of our situations are daycare. There's no daycare. I know you all know that, but just to reiterate, it's horrible. I mean, we can match people up with an employer, but then where's the daycare provider? So we're even reaching out to say, is there anybody in your family that can provide the daycare? They can get paid if they're not in your home, and you know, the situations, and still it's really challenging. So, and we like to meet our clients or our participants where they are. We have to. And as a matter of fact, my counterpart is right now out in the community going to all mechanic shops, looking for a position for somebody he has that he has to find a job for. So challenging, but you just have to be creative and just think out of the box, and anything that you can have, hit the streets, just talk to people. That's what we've been doing.
That's great. Thanks, Lisa. Yeah, totally echo. It's a time for us to be innovative and think about all of the tools that we can be deploying, and definitely childcare is on our radar. It's a key priority for the administration, and we're working closely with our state partners on that one as well, since it's a key need and a workforce challenge as well.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thanks, Lisa.
You're welcome.
All right. Hi, Jason.
Hi. So, you know, if I can add, I was struck by the one slide you put up on the survey that you did, and some of the things that job seekers are looking for or keeping them out of the workplace. And, you know, something that, you know, Colleen mentioned, you know, everyone is looking for people, you know, things like benefits, you know, being safe from COVID and safe in the workplace, things like wages, and you know what we can do on the statewide level and the levers that government can pull on a policy aspect, and policies to put in place. You know, obviously I represent the laborers union in construction, but also on the statewide workforce board and the AFL-CIO, things that we can put in place to incentivize, good jobs, with benefits, with safe employers, that have a commitment to those types of things, to incentivize those workers to rejoin or to join the workforce for the first time, so that we can actually fill those open positions that Colleen and others talked about. I think the levers that, if the ones that government can pull and put policies in place to incentivize those types of jobs and employers, we should be able to be doing those. And I know the administration takes that seriously.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. Thanks for raising that, Jason. Great. Well, I think that those were some great comments to warm up our breakout discussions. That gave us some good food for thought. And we are going to go ahead and jump in. So we're going to split off into 4 groups, and we will go ahead and jump in and talk about how do we work differently? How do we work sustainably? How do we embed equity into this unique moment that we are in? So Isaac, go ahead and split us off. Welcome back from the breakouts. Oh, it says I'm muted. Am I muted? Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay. Wonderful. I think we're also coming back from the breakouts. So we'll give people another minute here. Hopefully everyone got great ideas. We had great conversation in our group with lots of good suggestions. Thanks, Tobin. Thanks for the validation. I think we're missing one or two groups.
Still meeting.
Oh, okay. Thanks, Isaac. And yeah, Chris, I'm going to kick it to you to do our round robin, since I think people might get sick of my voice soon. Okay, we've got one more group coming back, and then I'll kick it to Chris to call on each of these groups. And just one or two comments. We've got the idea board, so we've got these sticky note boards, so we'll make sure that we capture all of the great ideas and comments, but want to elevate one or two for this larger group. So Chris, I'll kick it to you. I think we're all back.
We're waiting on David Klein, but he should be over soon.
Okay. Wait on his group, Isaac?
No, that's just the only person left.
Oh, okay. All right. So, well, let's get going here. And I'm realizing in the group that I facilitated, we didn't identify a person to report out to the larger group. So let's start with, where are we?
My group can go first.
Yeah, let's start with group one, Sam. Go ahead.
Awesome.
And just before we go, and Sam, you know this, but let's keep all the report outs to a minute and a half max, so we can move on to the other smaller group work.
Awesome. Go for it, Derek.
Okay, so a couple bullets from ours was maybe some kind of central triage site for every level, from the job seeker to the businesses to the providers and every partner, where they could go and kind of get a live time access to what the current programs out there might be and how to access those, including maybe points of contact. Flexibility for workers coming from specific labor pools and some of the needs that they would have that come with them. An example would be recently incarcerated folks may have needs that will pull them out from time to time, and having the flexibility to be able to go take care of that stuff. And then maybe some kind of system to build trust on these programs, where you can connect graduates of the programs with people considering entering the programs.
Thanks, Derek.
Thank you very much. Anything to add to that, Sam?
No, you captured it perfectly.
Great. So let's go to group three. I think Sarah was the facilitator in that group.
Gilda, I think you're on.
All right. So in addition to what was already mentioned, excuse me, we talked about ensuring that there are multiple ways for people to learn about occupations and career pathways, particularly in terms of work-based learning and opportunities to learn and earn and learn at the same time. We discussed the importance of flexibility and remote work options, particularly for people who are facing barriers to going and participating in a job at the same location every day, transportation, childcare, rural nature of the state. And also thinking more creatively about outreach strategies for some of those special populations, and who are the partners that we need to work with to make sure that what's being communicated is being heard and being able to be utilized.
Thank you very much. And was there a group 4, Sam? Was there 4 groups? All right, let's go to group 4.
That was my group, and
All
I
right.
failed to select a speaker, so you're stuck with me. My group really focused a lot on innovation and equity, got a little bit into sustainability. Really a lot of our conversation focused on education. How can we support individuals in getting to the job, whether the barrier is an unexpected need like a car repair or even just initial money to be able to get connected to that workforce. They also wanted to focus on some rural transportation pilots, looking at some successful practices like Jackson Labs and other places. Also really noted that daycare, childcare in general is just a huge barrier. And so we need to look at innovative models. We need to look at potential partnership with our school systems to provide before and after care. Lots of conversation around those two barriers. Also tossed out that perhaps there could be a low interest loan program for folks who might need one-time assistance for things that really hamstring them, individuals from participating in jobs, whether it's retaining or entering the job market. And we focused a lot around equity. So sometimes remote learning opportunities with proper bandwidth access and accessibility is a great equalizer for individuals to be able to participate in training and other types of programming. We talked a lot about ensuring that there's equal pay for individuals, no matter what level they're coming in across the workforce. And we talked a lot about really innovative outreach strategies to new Mainers and other target populations. I'm going to stop there because I'm probably at a minute or a minute.
Thank you, Kim. All right, and back to group two. I'm delayed no longer, so I will do the report out because I failed to identify anyone as well. But a lot of the same themes that were already touched on under innovation, we hit on the remote work piece, which I think a lot of people have talked about. Our topic was increased attainment of credentials of value. We want to make sure that there's an awareness of the multiple pathways to credentials, the credentials of value, and then expand on those credentials of value, work with our industry groups and associations that have existing credential programs. We need to make sure that this is sustainable, get the buy-in from agencies and industry partners to ensure that sustainability. And then as far as diversity, we need to be intentional about inclusivity and provide translations in multiple languages, assist customer-facing businesses like tourism, hospitality, retail, with diversity and equity skills trainings. Collaboration and coordination, we need to make sure that that we're intentional in our program development, and it involves awareness of the populations, agency efforts, and funding streams. Communicate to develop the career maps for jobs and various on-ramps and resources to attain those, to attain benchmarks. And then finally, greater collaboration between all departments and community organizations, both locally and regionally. So I think that's that. And then with that, I think I need to turn it back over to Sam for our next breakout, right?
Yes, it is time for our next breakout. So I'm just going to share my screen quickly so that folks have a sense of what we're going to be doing here. Did that share? Let's try that. Okay, so we're going to do 2 rapid fire rounds. Hopefully you can see my screen now. And we're going to do them around the ARPA lenses that I talked about. So these are really the 6 lenses that we're really focusing on from a workforce perspective: apprenticeship, healthcare workforce, industry partnership, job seeker navigation, training, education, and employer support. So we're going to do 2 quick rapid fire rounds. So they're going to be short, they're going to be 10 minutes, and really just kind of a brain dump of what should we keep in mind as we're planning for these efforts, and what questions do you have as we're planning for these efforts that we can circle back with you on. Maybe we have answers today, or we can circle back if we don't have answers today. So we're going to do 2 rounds, and Isaac is going to set them up so you can just pick the topic that you're most interested in. We're going to do 2 sets of 3. So our first round up will be apprenticeship, pre-apprenticeship, industry partnership, and job seeker navigation. So 1, 3, and 4, those are not in order, but that's what we're going to do first. And then we will do another round on healthcare workforce, training, education, and employer supports. So you'll have the opportunity, Isaac, you can go ahead and open the breakouts and you can click the topic that you're more interested in talking about. And we'll just do a quick 10-minute kind of rapid fire. Everyone should have that invitation up. And if you're struggling with Zoom, we can also just place you in one. So no worries if you are struggling, we will just drop you in one and we hope that you'll be interested in that topic.
Yes, I will hang around until everyone is in a room.
Excellent.
I don't seem to be seeing where I get to make that choice. Do I have to open the breakout room icon?
Yeah, give that a shot.
Yeah, you should have 3 choices. I think we have a few. Kim, have you been able to join?
I'm going to sit out if it's okay. Sorry.
Okay. I think we're all filtering back. It looks like half the folks are frozen, so I might be frozen.
You are
I
not
think,
frozen.
Okay.
yeah,
Maybe just a statewide internet outage. Everyone froze at the same time. All right, we are all coming back. I think we can do a really quick, just one sticky note per group, and then we're going to go into our next round since we've got about 15 minutes left. So our apprenticeship group is ready to share, and I'm going to call on Shannon to just share one tidbit suggestion that stood out to you.
One thing that stood out to me is just making sure that the organizations that are supporting pre-apprenticeship and registered apprenticeships have a track record of doing so and aren't just trying to piecemeal something together to get the benefits of the federal dollars, and making sure that there's supportive services that go into that keep people in the apprenticeships, don't just get them through the door just to say we did it, but to keep them in a long-term career pathway.
Awesome. Thanks, Shannon. And we had an industry partnership group. Anyone want to share one tidbit from that group?
Hi, it's Curtis. I got volunteered to do it. We had a really good discussion about a number of sticky notes that folks will see, but we'll focus on the discussion we had, that recognizing that people actually change their careers over lives. So while we talk about career pathways, the reality is not a lot of people stay in one industry their whole career anymore. So how do we adapt to that, and how do we recognize the early skills or soft skills are transferable throughout people's careers?
I love that career pathway ladder approach. Thanks, Curtis. And last group, I think it was job seeker navigation and supports. Anyone want to jump in on that one?
that's me. I would say the one thing that I think we talked about the most was the importance of both listening to where participants are and then what they want, as well as just simply providing them with information and resources. So just the importance of listening to where they are, where they're at, and where they want to go.
Mm-hmm. Great point. Wonderful. So we're going to jump back into our last rapid fire. Hopefully people aren't getting dizzy from our breakout abyss, throwing everyone across the world here. So we're going to jump in. We got 10 more minutes, and you're going to choose one of the last three topics, which are training and education, employer engagement and supports, and healthcare workforce. So Isaac, feel free to open those, and that should pop up on your screen. If it doesn't, feel free to click the breakout room icon, and that might prompt you. And if you're having trouble, no worries, we will throw you into one.
Do you need help getting into a specific group?
No, I've not been assigned yet.
Is there a specific one you want to join between training and education, employer engagement, or healthcare workforce?
I'd love maybe employee engagement.
Give me 1 second.
Okay.
Should be all set.
Okay. We are coming back. And we've got just a couple of minutes here as folks come back in the room. And I think what I'm going to do, since we don't have that much time, and I'm sure folks are wondering what's next and what we're going to do with this information, I'm going to quickly share my screen. I think we're all back. Isaac, can you confirm so that I don't start talking and then miss half the people?
I think we're missing just one, but the breakout's closing now, so they should be back.
Oh, okay. We're going to give them a second.
Yep, I think we're good.
Okay, great. So in terms of closeout, first, just want to thank you all so much for the great ideas and input. I really felt the energy and the interest in being creative and collaborative just in our last group. We had some connections with folks that I think are going to connect after this around how they can really be helping students differently with prior learning assessments and micro-credentialing. So that's what we love to see. We want to see how we can do that at a larger scale as we really think differently about this recovery period. So thank you all. We are capturing everything. So all of these idea boards, we've got all of your feedback. We've got a couple more sessions. So hopefully you all have that invite. If you want to jump on another session, please feel free to join us again. We're capturing everything over the next 2 weeks, and we'll be putting that out in terms of just a big recap. All the recordings will live somewhere on the website. So we'll respond to everyone who registered and let you know where that lives once that is ready to go. I did want to just share that we have a survey link too. So if there's anything you weren't able to share or you want to provide any more context on, I'm going to put that in the chat right now. And you can definitely expect to hear from us as we are planning, launching, implementing things in the next couple of months. That's really going to be in that late fall, early winter timeframe, and we'll be making sure that those opportunities that folks are eligible to apply for are broadly broadcasted. So we'll be getting that out to you when that is available. And with that, I am going to put the link in the chat here if you've got any other feedback that you want to share with us. And hopefully everyone has a great day. Thank you, everyone. We appreciate it. Have a good afternoon. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.